Divinity Original Sin 2 is a game with no shortage in variety in skills and builds, with 10 different primary skill schools, each with a couple dozen skills give or take, along with source skills, innate character skills, and special skills as well. But not all these abilities are created equal, and today we're going to discuss 10 of the most powerful skills in Divinity Original Sin 2 and why they're so strong. So without further ado, let's jump in. So coming in at number 10, we have a true classic, Chicken Claw. CC is king in Divinity 2, and by that I mean crowd control, not Chicken Claw. Taking your enemy's entire turn away for just one of your skills and usually 2 AP is crazy good, and Chicken Claw is one of the best CC skills in the game due to it lasting 2 turns. Sure, the opponent moves around a bit, but this is mostly random and can even get them hit by your own party's attack of opportunity, which can provide some added benefit. But in reality, this skill is on the list because it's 2 turns of CC for basically half your turn since it costs 2 AP. Well worth the 1 polymorph investment to grab this skill if you have physical damage dealers to remove enemy armor. Next up at number 9, we have a skill that's pretty much useful on any build, and that's Tactical Retreat. Much like CC for Chicken Claw, movement is another key aspect to Divinity 2 that you pretty much need to use to play the game effectively, and Tactical Retreat is the best general movement skill in the entire game. At only 1 AP is very versatile, and that 1 AP is effectively refunded next turn due to this skill granting hasted for 1 turn, making it effectively a no AP cost movement skill in the long run. The 2 Huntsman investment is a little steep, but on any ranged character, be that a hunter or some kind of caster like a mage, you can utilize the high ground bonus damage from Huntsman to make that 2-point investment feel a little less bad, and get access to the best generic movement skill in the game, plus first aid if you swing that way. Back to CC at number 8 though, we have Dominate Mind, which is strong for the same reasons I explained in Chicken Claw's section, so I won't spend too long here. Dominate Mind charms the enemy for 2 turns, which not only takes their turn away, it makes them attack their own allies, which is why this skill is just slightly above Chicken Claw in the ranking. Granted, it does cost 1 more AP, and it's basically the magical equivalent of Chicken Claw. Both are really solid. At number 7, I have one of the best defensive skills in the entire game, Uncanny Evasion. For a decent investment of 2 Aerothurge, this skill makes the target character gain 90% dodging chance and 20% movement speed for 1 turn. The speed can be nice to reposition and stuff, but the main reason you run this skill is for what is effectively a turn of invincibility. It's not quite that good because it's only 90% dodging, not 100%, and a few skills or actions bypass accuracy checks and can go right through Uncanny Evasion's effect. But other than those minor drawbacks, this skill is insanely useful for just 1 AP to have on pretty much any character if you can justify that 2 Aero investment, which with the existence of another skill that we'll talk about later can be quite appealing. Number 6 is Chameleon Clock, which fills a very similar role to Uncanny. This one makes you invisible for 2 turns, which might seem on its face to be doubly as good, but in reality it's usually only 1 turn, since if you perform almost any action while stealthed, you will unstealth, and so when it comes back around to that turn's character who used Cloak, they will want to act and that removes the stealth, making it usually 1 turn. You do however have the option to use the second turn of safety and just bank AP, which is the main reason why it's above Uncanny on the list despite doing roughly the same thing. This also has some applications out of combat for stealing or sneaking past fights and stuff like that, which Uncanny does not. That's why it's 1 place higher on the list, but essentially these skills do a very similar thing. Alright, so getting into the top 5 is where we really start to see some of the most broken skills that are just way better than the rest. First up here we have Flesh Sacrifice. AP or action points are the lifeblood of Divinity's combat system. More AP equals more win for the most part, and Flesh Sacrifice not only straight up gives you 1 AP for free, it also gives you a 10% damage boost for 2 turns, making this skill excellent for any damage dealing build. The only downsides to this skill are 1, you lose 2 constitution temporarily for using it, and the main one, this skill is elf only. Sorry Red Prince mains, but you're gonna need to be Sebille or a custom elf to get access to this incredibly powerful skill. But anyone with an elf in their party or has played Sebille knows how strong Flesh Sacrifice is, not to mention the crazy Elemental Affinity Necromancer shenanigans you can perform with this because it creates a blood surface. Gaining 1 AP and reducing the cost of all your Necro skills by 1 is complete insanity, but even on its own without that synergy, this skill is still top 5. Next up at number 4 we have the last innate skill on the list, and that's Fane's Time Warp. This skill is just straight up busted and it makes me want to pick Fane for every playthrough. You target a character and when that character ends their turn, they get another turn straight up for free. Sure, it costs 1 source, but Time Warp is better than all the 2 and 3 source skills in the game anyway. For just 2 AP, and of course that 1 source point, you at minimum get to effectively generate 2 AP, since a free turn is 4 AP by default and it costs 2. But it's better than just 2 free AP, since you can chain turns into each other and perform some absolutely disgusting combos and CC setups with this skill. And that's not to mention Lone Wolf playthroughs that effectively generate 4 AP, not 2 with this skill. And you can pull off a 12 AP swing turn by using using this on a second party member to take 2 turns in a row. The only reason this skill isn't higher on the list is because it's Fane exclusive and very restrictive for that reason. If this skill was on any character and anyone could get access to it, it would be a must build on literally everyone and probably the number 1 skill on the list. So you may have noticed when I was discussing Tactical Retreat that I said it was the best generic movement skill in the game, and that was for a reason. At number 3, I have Teleportation, which is by far the best utility skill in the entire game. The amount of use cases for this one ability is kinda crazy. Within combat, it can reposition allies, pull enemies into really bad spots, trap dogs, spiders, and other mobs that can't use ladders by TPing them onto a ledge, can completely cheese fights by teleporting one enemy out of the combat radius of the rest of them, triggering combat with just that one enemy. You can then 4v1 them and repeat, which is pretty lame but incredibly effective. You can also TP enemies on top of lava and fire and all this stuff. Outside of combat, it can access chests and loot that you won't be able to access otherwise. It can bypass certain fights altogether by teleporting your party past them, access hidden areas and Fort Joy escape routes, can steal items by teleporting them out of sight of their owner. The list of things teleportation can do feels endless, and while 2 points into Aerotheurge is a bit of a steep price if you don't already build Aero, the skill is more than worth 2 skill points invested in my opinion. Plus you can pick up Uncanny Evasion from further down the list while you're at it once you have that point investment. The fact that I often keep teleportation gloves from Fort Joy on one of my characters well into Act 2 of the game when their armor value has massively fallen off just proves how strong and useful this skill really is. And in terms of versatility, it probably is the number 1 most versatile skill in the game. Taking the penultimate spot on the list though, we have Adrenaline, arguably the best non-source skill in the game. I mentioned before how more AP equals more win in Divinity, and while Adrenaline doesn't technically give you more AP, you get 2 AP now but pay back 2 AP next turn. It's basically an AP loan at 0% interest. Boy, a lot of people looking for mortgages in the current market would be jealous of this skill. This might not seem worthy of top 3 on its face, but accelerating that AP gives you the potential to do so much more with your first turn before enemies can even react and have a chance to do anything. You can often shred down armor and CC 1 or even 2 enemies right off the bat, especially considering you usually run this skill on rogues which have extremely high initiative and will start the fight. If half the enemies in the fight lose their entire turn, you're kind of fine losing 2 AP on your next turn. Adrenaline also only requires an investment of 1 Scoundrel, which for a skill of this caliber is a really sweet deal. Quickly before we get to the number 1 spot, I want to mention Reactive Armor for an honorable mention. While not super strong now, it was previously one of, if not the most broken skill in the entire game before a nerf patch hit it hard, doubling its AP cost and nerfing the damage from 50% of your physical armor to 20%. This skill back in the day would allow your tanks to straight up one-shot people out of nowhere, especially when buffed up by Bone Cage or other physical armor boosting effects. But since it's nerf, it's just a decent skill, nothing insane, and so it doesn't make the actual list, but it was worth a mention for how insane it was back in the day. And finally, the number 1 best skill in Divinity Original Sin 2 is Skin Graft. We've talked about abusing core game mechanics like CC and AP already, but one we haven't touched on is skill cooldowns, and that's where Skin Graft comes in. Costing only 1 AP and 1 source, this skill resets all other active cooldowns, allowing for more longevity in drawn out fights, double uses of powerful skills like the aforementioned Adrenaline and Flesh Sacrifice to farm even more AP. This skill is just so versatile and fits into literally any build. Every playstyle in the game relies on ability cooldowns to a certain extent and can make great use of this. I honestly have no idea why this costs only 1 AP and 1 source. It should be 2 and 2 or even 2 and 3 in my opinion, given how crazy it is to reset all skill cooldowns. Absolutely one of, if not the most powerful skills in the game, even when you factor in the source point cost and steep 3 polymorph skill requirement. But that's it for my top 10 most overpowered Divinity 2 skills. From simple ones like CCing your opponent for 2 turns, which is just fundamentally good, to extremely versatile and skill testing ones like Teleportation and Skin Graft. All 10 of these skills are a cut above the rest of the competition. But what do you guys think? Would you shuffle the order of my list around at all, or even include some skills I didn't mention? Let me know down below, and I'll catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.